It was a sunny and warm Friday afternoon in Dallas, Texas, when the unthinkable happened. As President John F. Kennedy's motorcade passed through Dealey Plaza, a loud crack echoed through the air. The president slumped forward in his open-top limousine, clutching his throat. A second shot hit him in the head, sending blood and brain matter flying. The crowd screamed and panicked, while the Secret Service agents scrambled to protect the president and his wife, Jacqueline. The president was rushed to Parkland Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 1 p.m. CST. Welcome to mystery. The nation and the world were shocked and grief-stricken by the news of his death. Who would do such a thing, and why? The prime suspect was Lee Harvey Oswald, a 24-year-old former Marine and defector to the Soviet Union. He denied any involvement, claiming he was just a patsy. 4 days after the shooting, before he could be tried, he was shot and killed by Jack Ruby, a nightclub owner with connections to the underworld, in front of live television cameras. Interesting. But was Oswald really the only shooter? And who was behind the assassination of JFK, one of the most popular presidents in the history of the United States? Was it a one-man job, or was an entire country involved in his untimely demise? This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy fact, and you're about to discover it. Stay tuned. Was Oswald really not the only shooter? The Warren Commission's report was supposed to be the final word on JFK's assassination, but it was far from convincing. The commission was flawed from the start, and its investigation was riddled with errors, omissions, and biases. It relied heavily on the FBI's investigation, which was incomplete and biased. The FBI had already concluded that Oswald was the lone gunman before the commission was even formed, and did not conduct a proper forensic analysis of the crime scene. Interesting. Did you know they also withheld or destroyed crucial evidence, such as Oswald's note to his wife Marina, his tax records, and his diary? The FBI never wavered from its alternative 3 shots, 3 hits scenario, but its version did not even acknowledge Kennedy's throat wound, and the commission apparently found the FBI report so embarrassing that it did not even print it in the 26 volumes of hearings and exhibits. Conflicting evidence and testimony were either ignored or destroyed discreetly, which suggested more than one shooter. For example, the commission rejected the testimony of several eyewitnesses who claimed to have seen or heard shots from the grassy knoll, a small hill near the motorcade route. The commission also disregarded the acoustical evidence that indicated at least 4 shots were fired, one of them from the grassy knoll. The commission also failed to explain how Oswald could have fired 3 shots in such a short time span with an old and inaccurate rifle. Key evidence was suppressed from its own members and the public. Chief Justice Earl Warren denied his fellow commissioners access to Kennedy's autopsy photos because he deemed them too disturbing. He also refused to allow the commission to interview certain witnesses whom Oswald may have known in Mexico, and even tried to block an interview with Jackie Kennedy because he didn't want to invade her privacy. The commission also kept secret its interview with Fidel Castro, who denied any involvement in the assassination. The commission was influenced by political pressure and personal interests. Some members of the commission were reluctant to serve on it and had conflicts of interest. For example, Alan Dulles was a former CIA director who had been fired by Kennedy after the Bay of Pigs fiasco. John McCloy was a Wall Street lawyer who had represented several corporations that had dealings with Cuba. Gerald Ford was an ambitious congressman who secretly provided information on the commission to J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI. The commission also faced pressure from Johnson, who wanted a quick and conclusive report to prevent public panic or international crisis. Obviously, these reports were far from the base reality. One of the most persistent and controversial theories about the JFK assassination is that there was a second shooter on the grassy knoll. According to this theory, this shooter fired at least 1 shot that hit Kennedy from the front, causing his head to snap back and to the left, as seen in the Zapruder film. This theory also challenges the official conclusion that Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone gunman who fired 3 shots from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. The grassy knoll shooter theory is based on several pieces of evidence and testimony that suggest more than one shooter. Several eyewitnesses, including Gene Hill, Ed Hoffman, Gordon Arnold, Lee Bowers, S.M. Holland, and Beverly Oliver, claim to have seen or heard shots emanating from the grassy knoll area. Some even reported observing smoke or a flash of light from behind the fence. The acoustical evidence, derived from a dictabelt recording of a police motorcycle radio, pointed to the firing of at least 4 shots, one originating from the grassy knoll. Analyzed by the House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1978, this evidence led to the conclusion of a probable conspiracy involving 2 gunmen. However, subsequent studies contested its reliability and validity. Examining the ballistics evidence, which involves the analysis of bullet fragments and wounds, suggested that certain shots could not have been fired from Oswald's rifle. Notably, experts argued that the bullet causing Kennedy's fatal head wound was too large and explosive to be a 6.5 mm Carcano bullet fired by Oswald. Additionally, they contended that the bullet injuring both Kennedy and Governor John Connally remained too pristine and undamaged to have passed through 2 bodies. Here's what we think could have been the second shooter: a CIA agent or a Cuban exile working for the CIA as part of a plot to eliminate Kennedy for his failure to overthrow Fidel Castro or his plans to withdraw from Vietnam. A mafia hitman or a Corsican assassin hired by the mafia as part of revenge for Kennedy's crackdown on organized crime or his betrayal of their support in the 1960 election. And while it sounds like a long stretch, but a right-wing extremist or a rogue military officer as part of a coup d'etat to prevent Kennedy from pursuing peace with the Soviet Union or civil rights for African Americans, we'll never know for sure. One of the most disturbing aspects surrounding the JFK assassination is the not-so-accidental deaths of numerous key witnesses and individuals connected to the case. Over the years, many people possessing information or evidence relevant to the assassination or its alleged conspiracy met their demise under circumstances that were rather suspicious or unnatural. While some of these deaths were officially labeled as suicides, accidents, or natural causes, others were unmistakably classified as murders. The timing and frequency of these deaths have fueled speculation among researchers and conspiracy theorists, suggesting they might be part of a larger cover-up orchestrated by the assassins or their accomplices. Let's start with Lee Bowers was a railroad worker stationed in a tower overlooking the grassy knoll area. Bowers testified to the Warren Commission about observing 2 men behind the knoll's fence, one possibly holding a rifle. He also claimed to have heard 3 shots, one from behind him. In 1966, Bowers died in a car crash, his vehicle veering off the road and hitting a concrete abutment. Witnesses reported seeing another car possibly chasing him or forcing him off the road. That's eerie. On to Dorothy Kilgallen, who was a renowned journalist and TV personality. Kilgallen had interviewed Jack Ruby, Lee Harvey Oswald's killer. She asserted having exclusive information from Ruby that could break the case wide open, and claimed to possess a transcript of Ruby's Warren Commission testimony from a secret informant. In 1965, Kilgallen allegedly died from an overdose of sleeping pills and alcohol. However, suspicions arose due to evidence suggesting foul play, such as bruises on her body, inconsistencies in her autopsy report, and missing files from her home. It gets crazier with this. David Ferrie was a pilot and former CIA operative connected to Lee Harvey Oswald through anti-Castro activities. Ferrie was accused by New Orleans District Attorney Jim Garrison of involvement in a conspiracy to assassinate JFK. He died in 1967, shortly after Garrison announced his investigation. Although officially attributed to natural causes from a berry aneurysm, some evidence pointed to the possibility of Ferrie being injected with a lethal dose of cancer-causing chemicals. And lastly, Mary Pinchot Meyer, who was a socialite and former lover of JFK. Meyer was also friends with CIA agent Cord Meyer, suspected of involvement in the assassination plot. She allegedly maintained a diary detailing her affair with JFK and his perspectives on global affairs. In 1964, Meyer was shot to death while walking along a canal in Washington, D.C. Her diary was confiscated by CIA counterintelligence chief James Angleton and never surfaced again. The question remains, who killed these witnesses and why? And what secrets did they take to their graves? Finally, some never-before-seen details have surfaced recently after 60 years of JFK's assassination. The Warren Commission's report was based on the assumption that only 3 bullets were fired at the president's motorcade, and that one of them caused multiple injuries to both Kennedy and Connally. This became known as the single bullet theory or magic bullet theory. But what if there was another bullet that was never accounted for? What if this bullet could prove that there was more than one shooter? A former Secret Service agent who witnessed the assassination at close range has recently revealed a new detail that could upend the single bullet theory. Paul Landis, who was riding in the car behind Kennedy's limousine, says in his upcoming memoir that he took a bullet from the car after Kennedy was shot and then left it on the former president's stretcher at the hospital. He claims that he did not report this to anyone at the time because he was afraid of being blamed for tampering with evidence. Landis's account raises several questions. Where did this bullet come from? Was it fired by Oswald or by another gunman? Did it hit anyone or anything? And why was it never mentioned in the official investigation? Could this bullet be the missing piece of the puzzle that could finally solve the mystery of JFK's assassination? Some experts and historians are quite skeptical about Landis's story, saying it contradicts the existing evidence and testimony. They argue that there is no record of any bullet being found on Kennedy's stretcher, and that Landis's memory may be faulty or influenced by other sources, while also pointing out that Landis did not mention this detail in his previous interviews or statements. Strange indeed. Why come forward now, after all these years? However, obviously some researchers and conspiracy theorists have welcomed Landis's revelation, saying that it supports their view that there was a conspiracy involving multiple gunmen. They suggest that this bullet could have been fired by a shooter on the grassy knoll, or by another shooter from a different location. They also speculate that this bullet could have been part of a cover-up orchestrated by the assassins or their accomplices, who may have removed or destroyed other evidence. Who is telling the truth? Is Landis's story a bombshell or a hoax? And what does this mean for the single bullet theory and the Warren Commission's report? The debate over this new detail is likely to add more fuel to the never-ending national obsession with the JFK assassination. That's a wrap for this video. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Mystery, where we explore history's most captivating mysteries. Thanks for watching.